Welcome to UCounsel. In today's lecture, we will discuss under what circumstances can an employee refuse to attend work if the employee believes that he or she will be exposed to coronavirus at work, and what is the process of refusing to work. Please note that this lecture is not legal advice, so if you have any specific questions regarding your issues, you should contact a lawyer or a paralegal or the Law Society of Ontario for a referral. We will talk about an employee's right to refuse work under Occupational Health and Safety Act in Ontario. We'll discuss which employees cannot refuse to work and what is the procedure to refuse work. The right to refuse work arises under Section 43 Sub 3 of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Now, this section provides different circumstances in which an employee can refuse to work, but because we're discussing only coronavirus, so we'll focus on one subsection, which essentially says that if the physical conditions of the workplace or part of the workplace in which an employee is attending work or is expected to work, and that physical condition can endanger the employee or another worker, then in those circumstances, the employee can refuse to work. So based on this condition, it can be stated that if an employee believes that by attending work, by attending place of employment, the employee will be exposed to coronavirus, then that could be a situation which is covered under this particular subsection and may allow the employee to refuse work. Who are some of the employees who cannot refuse work? Section 43 Sub 1 specifies that these employees are members of police force, firefighters, employees who work at a correctional facility or institution, and employees who work in a healthcare related environment, whether it be hospitals, sanatoriums, long-term care facilities, rehab facilities, mental health institutions, ambulance services, first aid clinics, etc. And also the employees who work in sort of ancillary services with respect to healthcare facilities. So for example, food services, laundry services, technical services, power plants, etc. If employees work there, then they are also not permitted to refuse work. And this is primarily because either the nature of their work is inherently dangerous in the sense that it may expose them to the risk that is the reason for their refusal to work, or that by refusing to work, the health and safety of other individuals may be at risk, and therefore these employees are not allowed to refuse work. Let's talk about the procedure for refusing work. There are two stages to refuse work. Let's talk about stage one. In stage one, the worker will report the safety issue, the concern to the employer. The worker, during that time, while the employer is investigating the issue, worker will remain in a safe place. So for example, if there's a place within the workplace that the worker could be safe, then that is the place where the worker will remain. If not, then the worker will stay at home. The employer will investigate and resolve the worker's concern. And if the issue is unresolved, then the inquiry goes to stage 2. But if the matter is resolved, then the worker returns to work. Now, please note that while the employer is investigating and resolving the issue in stage 1, and if the worker is staying at home or absent from work because of this issue, then worker is considered a worker who is attending work, and he or she needs to be paid the normal wages as if the worker was attending work. With respect to stage 2, if the safety issue is unresolved, then either the worker or the employer or an agent of employer can contact Ministry of Labor. Ministry of Labor will send an inspector to review the workplace, and then the inspector will determine whether the safety issue is resolved or not. The process of refusing to work is rather straightforward, but its application is a bit complex because it depends upon the specific circumstances of that workplace. Generally speaking, what you can keep in mind is to assess what kinds of measures the employer has taken to protect its workforce. For example, if an employee or a worker can work from home or remotely, has the employer allowed its employees to do so? Has the employer minimized meetings and conferences to minimize workers' exposure to coronavirus? Has the employer instituted good workplace policies to protect its workers? For example, ensuring that people who may have potential exposure are quarantined at home, people who have exposure are off from work and not exposing other employees. So in circumstances where you're unclear whether you may be allowed to refuse work or whether your employees may be allowed to refuse work, it may be a good idea to contact Ministry of Labor to seek their position with respect to your work environment. Thank you for watching.